You're going to huddle around the individuals that are up here speaking and try to pick their brains,
Gonna
network,
huddle around
contact, and get their information, pass along your information.
that are up here.
That happens from 8 to 8:30. I have to be here until everybody's gone. So 8:30 is the hard limit, right? Like get your networking in quickly, network fast, and then we'll get out of here at a reasonable time, and you guys can continue the business with the people that you network after the fact. If you don't have a name tag, go ahead and snatch up a name tag. Get yourself situated with one after the fact, right? When you get ready to network, write down your name, your telephone number, your email address, and then as you're networking, it's an easy way for you to just snap a photo and stay in contact with that person. Cool. So by show of hands, how many people in the room are real estate agents?
Oh, snap.
Okay, it's almost half the room. Tonight is specifically for you guys. Obviously, the people that didn't raise their hands, they're either investors or soon to be investors. Um, what I've found as I've been working on both sides of the equation is that um, there's a divide between the real estate agents and real estate investors. Um, there there's a stigma that goes with working with real estate investors. And I can tell you from personal experience, last year as a real estate agent, I made six figures working through a handful of individuals. And that doesn't include the deals that I did that did not run through the brokerage, where it was just like a finder's fee. So, what you're going to get from these individuals tonight is how you can partner with these folks so that you increase your deal flow, some of the ways that you can put together deals that may not work traditionally on paper from a creative financing perspective, and what value you can bring to them so that way they can help you grow your business, and conversely you can help them grow their business. Cool. Questions on that? I'm going to let these individuals introduce themselves and their businesses, and we'll be doing like a Q&A. This is an interactive meetup, right? So the purpose of bringing these individuals onto the stage is so that you have access to them to talk about specific ways that you can partner with these individuals, and conversely, they can partner with you. Cool?
My name is Drew Hitt. So I have a company, Hampton Roads Cash Home Buyer. So we buy just short of 100 houses a year. We'll either rehab them or keep them as rentals. We do a little bit of wholesaling. I have 150 rental units, and an employees, 15 employees. So
My name is Sean Bowen. I'm the owner at Full Circle Investment Group. I think I know a good amount of people in the room. See y'all. My primary is I focus on wholesaling and then teaching wholesaling. So we have a company called wholesalingoutofthebox.com that specifically focuses on teaching people how to find the off-market deals, how to get them under contract, and then how to sell them. And that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years. I've done rehabbing. I've done new construction. I dipped my toe in that. I hated it. I have a few rentals. That's me.
Hello.
Yep, it's on.
Yeah, it's for the people online.
Hello. Yes, I'm Tico Christian. I'm the owner of the JCI Group. I'm probably a seasoned novice, I would say. So I wholesale as well as buy and hold. We do fix and flips as well. We're getting more into rehabs on the construction side. That's become a new avenue that's opened up for us. So yeah, I'm familiar with Andrew. I think we bumped heads on a Summit Ave, Portsmouth.
okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So we run across each other. But yeah, so
I'm Sean Rooks. I'm one of the agents on the Think team. I just got out of the Navy as well, so doing that as a reservist job. And then my company Stillwater REI, we flip about 8 houses a year, and then I own 9 doors, and we're looking to about double that this year.
Very cool. So I'm going to go ahead and just start directing some questions
Sure.
to you, Drew. When dealing with real estate agents, what's something that a real estate agent can do to bring value to your business, and kind of before you answer the question, kind of give them a rundown of what your operation looks like right now from a deal flow perspective, how you're getting houses, you know,
Okay.
how many houses you're getting, how much you're spending on marketing, so on and so forth.
So we spend probably just shy of between $30,000 and $40,000 a month in marketing to generate the leads for us to buy houses. So I would say that the biggest thing, I mean, our basically we have one sales rep that basically buys everything that we buy. All the leads come in, we handle all that excitement, and then half of our team is basically the construction side. But I would say the biggest thing for us is we buy a little bit of stuff from realtors. We do not make offers on the MLS. We don't do that only because I don't have a sales rep to deal with that, and I certainly don't have time to do that. We would like to buy more from agents, but our challenge that we have with agents is, unlike some flippers, we pull permits on everything. We do a very nice product, which means we don't pay the most. We don't intend to pay the most. It's only because we want to do a better quality product so that agents on the back end know what our product looks like, know we pulled permits on everything, it was all done right. So that doesn't make us as competitive as some cash buyers that don't do as nice of a house. Um, so that's one of the challenges we run into with dealing with agents, but we're legitimate. I mean, we buy contract 8 to 15 houses a month to buy. So we're legit. I mean, our biggest thing I'd also like to see agents bring us is creative stuff. I mean, because when you're selling a deal to someone who's buying it creatively, obviously the biggest concern is, can they financially afford to honor the commitments that they do with the seller? That's one of the things that we can definitely do. So whether we buy a house by taking over someone's loan or owner financing, financially, you know, we can afford to do that. And I have about 30 to 40 rentals that we've taken over people's mortgages. So it's an opportunity that most people are not aware of.
So Sean and his team, Drew and his team are spending $30,000 to $40,000 in marketing to bring deals directly into their flow, right? And they're negotiating directly with the contractor, or excuse me, directly with the homeowner to get the properties under contract, so that way they can rehab the properties. Now, one of the things that he talked about was not wanting to buy on the MLS. Anybody selling deals on the MLS right now? No, you're not. Stop it. That are selling or buying on the MLS right now. Agents. You guys are not doing any business right now?
Shit, we walked in the wrong room.
It's a nightmare, right? It's a nightmare from the buy side. It's a nightmare on the sell side, right? If you're a listing agent, you're reviewing 30 to 40 offers on that property that you just listed. If you're a buyer's agent, you're showing 30 to 40 properties, submitting 10 to 20 offers, and getting rejected, like, or not even getting rejected, like, oh, we went with another offer. The opportunities are challenging on MLS, right? That's at asking price. That's above asking price. And in reality, in order for an investor to make money, he needs to get that property below asking price at a discount. And when I say discount, it's an appropriate price based off of the condition of the home. So, you know, there are no deals to be had in reality on the MLS when you're competing against retail buyers. So these guys have decided, hey, we're going to forgo that. We're going to go direct to the seller. We're going to find the folks that have a pain point that we can go ahead and solve, and we're going to negotiate directly with them. So where does that leave you as an agent? How can you get a deal done with Sean? Or dude, I promise
We look
you,
so similar. It's okay.
bro,
Dude, you're like
how can you
20
do a
pounds
deal with
heavier
Drew?
than me, too.
I'm shorter and 20 pounds lighter.
It's all right here. It's all right
Yours is
here.
all right here.
What value can you bring Drew's organization? Buyers.
Sellers. Yeah. Let me jump in here and help, because I think I can see where you guys are going with this. Our biggest concern that we want you guys to know is how to bring a deal. Everybody heard about the Mayo formula? Anybody ever heard of this? Raise the hands.
Nope.
Okay, awesome. So that's step one. So we back into a formula, right? So we're going to take what the property is going to sell for, and then we use a percentage of that. And most of the time we use between like 70 and 75. We say 75% ARV minus repairs minus your wholesale fee or whatever your fee is you want, and that's how we contract up on these properties. Okay, that's the formula you guys need to know in order to back into whether it's a deal or not, to be able to bring it to us, either as the buyer or a wholesale scenario or the creative financing issue that Drew was talking about, and understanding these. Anybody ever heard of taking over subject to the existing mortgage? Yeah. Okay. So everybody knows like that's a decent deal, right? Owner finance, they own it free and clear. If we don't have to bring the money to the table, we could pay that person on the back end as the first deed of trust to them, rehab the property, and then pay them when we're done. Right. So we want you guys to understand how to bring us what we consider a deal. So in between, I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong, guys up here too, 70 to 80% loan to value, about right. Okay. And most of the times it depends on where they're getting the money from. 65 is like, that's really hard. You seeing too many of those? 60,
We do.
Yeah. Okay. So 65% to 75% loan to value, right? And that's an equation where you're taking that after repair value times that percentage minus your rehab. That's the next piece of this. Can you guys go through a rehab, like, and honestly say, big ticket numbers? Can you go through a rehab and just say, like, it needs a roof, windows, siding, bathroom, kitchen, HVAC, electrical, floors, and doors? Sound fair for like big ticket numbers? You should be close enough to that to be able to back into that number and say, yeah, that's the number that works, right? You don't need to be wasting your time with a bunch of contractors. Half of them aren't getting you the freaking quotes anyway, right? So it's like knowing those quick numbers should be able to help you guys bring deals to us that you're not just bringing us something that says like, hey, it's going to sell for $250,000. I want you to pay 190, and it needs 30 grand in rehab.
It's
Right.
also to understand that we're not competing with agents whatsoever, really. Like, I would say that 90% of the houses we buy would never get listed because
Totally.
they look like 1972 inside, and like it's not going to sell. I mean, and usually they're so horrible, you're going to need a cash buyer anyway. So you're just going to the market with that. So it's just, I don't look at it as we're really competing whatsoever, because I mean, yes, we get people that want retail all day long, and we're just like, go call an agent. I mean, that's not what we do. We need to buy at a substantial discount, and we're not trying to offend you. If you're willing to wait in the market, yeah, call an agent. I mean, we're not the solution for, 100% full price offers. I mean, the house needs to be ugly, or you need to have an ugly situation, like the one that means you're giving up equity for speed, convenience, and knowing the transaction is over and done. I think that's one of the things that you can look to, making sure that an investor can really perform, so that, like, if you had a house on the market and you wanted to, I'd give you a $10,000 EMD. I'm not afraid to put down a substantial amount of money to say that I'm legit and wipe every contingency out of there. But if you're dealing with investors that have contingencies, keep in mind that an offer is not an offer. Like, just because the price, it's got to match the terms of someone who's going to make sense. And I'm sure there's newer investors that agents are dealing with that put a bad taste in their mouth sometimes, of people who walk away at inspections. Every house that we buy, I would say 95% of them, we do no inspection whatsoever. I've never seen most of the houses we buy. We just sometimes had somebody who goes look at it, or in some cases, we don't even look at it because we just know every house needs a crap ton of work. We're buying it so cheap. We should make money, hopefully. I've only lost money on two.
I like how you say that. You're like, well, hopefully. You're like, well, we
Yeah.
know we're
Good
buying it
news.
low enough.
Good news. I only lost 50 grand and 70, so they weren't that bad.
Does
They
that
were
does
horrendous.
that help though, as far as like making sense to how to formulate that number and then bring it to somebody like us as a team that's interested in that? Because I know we've seen this multiple times. Like, hey, I went to my agent and they said they can sell it for this. I'm like, all right, cool. Then the agent listed it didn't sell, and then we're right back on the table, right? We want to be able to be there for you guys to do that, knowing like the house smells like shit, looks like shit, like all of that across the board, and you're okay with it, that we are okay to buy it. But those numbers got to make sense. They've got to meet that like 65, 75% loan to value in that equation in order to bring it to us. If it doesn't, like Drew said, like we're just going to, you guys could back up this too, I'm sure, but we can do that quick calculation to say we're not even interested in the deal, right? It just has to, those numbers have to play out. I think, does that kind of help
Absolutely.
break down?
So that's a way to bring deals to investors, but there's another way to partner with these investors that are here, to bring deals back out to the folks that are buying retail, right? Because these guys, they're either. Let me go back. either retail or connecting some of the deals that they have in their pipeline to some of the investors that you have in your network, right? I was guilty of this at the beginning, right? Somebody told me what a wholesaler did. I'm like, son of a bitch, they're trying to take my job. And that was the furthest thing from the truth, right? I wasn't willing to spend $40,000 in marketing to go lock up these deals. I'm still not. I spend zero money in marketing to get the deals that I get. These guys go out and spend the cash, right? What I do is I provide them value that then allows me to see the deals that they have in their pipeline. And I say, I'll take one of my buyers and connect them to their transaction. And now because I've taken that, I was the one that procured the deal, right? Drew had the deal. I brought it over here. I'm getting paid on the front end and on the back end in the form of a listing if that person decides to go resell it. Does that make sense? Are you guys adverse to working with agents in that capacity?
Not at all.
No. I look at it, an agent does a very good job at cultivating buyers that pay the most in every scenario. Your job is obviously the more they pay, the more you make. So I would prefer to work with agents that at least understand how to work with us. Like I can't do sketchy stuff, like not pay money through your broker and stuff. Like even though I'm not an agent, I still have to do it legit. But we want to work with you because if you have buyers that want to do house hacking or something like that, you're probably going to pay more than anyone that we know. So we want to have you involved. I look at it, and plus we have a little bit higher level of ethics, I think, when dealing with an agent than another buyer, because we know you're not going to try to undercut our deal and interfere with our contract with the seller. You just want to get paid. We want your buyer, and we don't want to cut you out because all you constantly do is go find buyers all day long.
Keep the wheel.
It's like when that one person ran out of money, we want you to go find somebody else with money that pays way more than everybody we know. Otherwise, our job is to sell it to whoever pays the most. We don't care where it came from, but just realize, your buyer's paying more, but we have to now account for your commission in there too. So hopefully you're cultivating really good buyers that pay more because we have that extra cost in there with the agent getting paid. But I like paying agents. I mean, it makes my life easier that you're happy on that end. You also can serve your client with a product nobody is seeing. So you look even better. I mean, there are deals that don't exist that you can present that aren't on the MLS, and they're like, how are you finding these things? And you just tell your client, don't worry about it.
Don't you worry about it.
Yeah.
I'll just keep bringing them to
Yeah,
you.
that's why I'm here. Yep.
That's the link. Go ahead, shoot.
So if you're putting the agent and the wholesaler together, because you just said that usually it looks like shit, smells like shit, nobody else wants it. So it's like it's gonna be a rare event when you got a house to wholesale to share it to an MLS, an agent to put a buyer with, right?
No, I would say not always. I mean, a house just sold in my neighborhood for $400,000 that literally looked like 1952 inside, and that person's going to spend $100,000 fixing up and live in it. If I knew that, if I would have got that deal all day long, and I would have been able to pay way more than I should have, I would have needed to buy that house for like $250 to do the $100,000 in work that it needed to resell for something. But if you had that buyer, I could have actually paid more for it, got paid. Like you're actually creating deals for us by knowing, hey, I got somebody looking in Ocean View for a duplex and they're willing to pay up to $200,000. I mean, I have 27,000 people in my database. I think I can go find you something. Put it under contract and get your buyer taken care of, and then you look like a hero finding inventory. So I think there's still that opportunity. Even owner occupants who can do some work. I mean, that's like for us, it's gold. It's magic. I mean, we would love it.
Hey, Jill, can you repeat the question so I can repeat it for online? Do you remember? Next one, guys.
I said that I asked if they had the wholesalers have such rundown homes. It's going to make you that real estate agent's going to have a buyer for because most of their buyers want something that's a little bit less smelly.
Well,
than shit.
so the question for everybody online, the question was, if a wholesaler has a
Keep it
deal,
real, like it.
why would a retail buyer purchase that deal? The answer is they don't. And that's why everybody's in the room. It's to figure out how agents can work with investors to get more deal flows, right? So we're not putting that on the MLS to try to sell it to somebody else. We're taking these deals and we're bringing them to the buyers that we vetted, right? And said, hey, I have a buyer for that particular property. Can, you know, and you just put yourself in the middle of that thing. This conversation has kind of been one side. I'm going to go ahead and let this side of the room kind of talk a little bit.
I can kind of tag on to that. So because I started as an investor, you know, I got on all these guys' lists because they have great deals. And then as I transitioned to being an agent and primarily helping other investors, now I have, you know, all of my clients lined up. Okay, this is a retail buyer. This is an investor buyer. This investor is looking for a flip of this size. If it's not on the MLS and you still want to help that client out, which I'm sure you do, you just look at all the deal flow coming from Drew and from Sean and just match them up and just send it out. Say, hey, here's the property. It's listed at this, you know, tag on your commission, whatever it is, just be forthright about it. Say, hey, this is the commission for me finding this deal for you, and just line the two up. So if you know, it just depends on how many people you have in your database. So if they're all just retail buyers looking for a house to live in, this probably isn't a good fit. But when you start, you know, working with investors, they're going to tell you, hey, I'm looking for a flip. I'm looking for a house hack that needs some work. I'm looking for a burr, something like that. Now you can use their lists, just mix and match, and hopefully get them sold faster and at a higher price.
You hand a
Same. You know, personally, I'm holding on to a lot of the properties that we acquired. I kind of got into wholesaling, not to wholesale to other investors. I got into wholesaling for myself, get inventory for myself, not having to rely on real estate agents, not having to compete for deals and lose out on. As I got in, I started raising capital, and then I opened up the market down here. Real estate agents help me a ton. Claudio helps me in ways that don't just involve bringing an investor to the table with resources. I don't live here. I live in Washington, D.C. So when I set up here, having resources, I was finding deals, Maryland, D.C., find anything. I mean, they're on it. They're on it quick. Put it anywhere. I didn't have a list of investors. I didn't have a buying list. I had Claudio, other real estate agents. They had buyers. They knew who the investors were, and that was bringing value to me. And then I grew my buyers list, and then I have leveraged my relationship with the real estate agents that I have here for other things. Claudio, I'm always contacting Claudio. Can I get a CMA? You know, various things that I need. Another thing that real estate agents have that bring value to at least my operation, outside just having the resources of buyers, there's so many other contacts for a wholesaler like me who's remote. I don't live in the area. Claudio, you got this general contractor. Who's someone I can send out here and do this job? I'm holding on this project. You got somebody. Hey, Hampton Roads, termite and pest, they can't make it out to this property. Who else can do a termite and moisture inspection? Claudio, he's gonna get that contact for. Hey, I got this buyer I'm about to assign the property to. They don't want to use a attorney's office. They want to use a title company. Who can I go to? Claudio. He's always giving me that information, always putting me on the food soup. So that brings value as agents bring to me, and then at the same time, I buy and hold properties. I have investors who are remote. A lot of my core investors, I only deal with about 3 or 4 now, are buying everything that I assign, and they don't live here either. So when I have properties that I'm either holding on to, I say, hey, Claudio, you want to list this? Always works. My other investors, they're taking these properties. They need the infrastructure. They need the resources. So can I have a real estate agent who has these resources? They know who you need to talk to, who can get this job done while you're still in Washington, D.C. or whatever, but they're going to be your listing agent at the end. They want to list it on the back. So that's another way you can make this relationship. Just leveraging your other contacts, leveraging being here. I'm pretty sure you're at these investment events. You're making a Rolodex of people who do various things in the real estate industry. You can leverage that to other wholesalers like myself. Just like I said, I'm remote. I don't live here, so I'm always leaning on him for contacts.
And so the biggest opportunity and why you're in the room is figuring out, you know, what value can I bring? What does this look like? The only way that you can get the answer to that question is to ask these guys some questions about their specific operations, right? What is a day to day in the life of a Tico, a Sean, a Drew? What does that look like? What can we, you know, a lot of these guys, you know, Tico is in Northern Virginia. The market's a little bit different, right? So he's relying on me to tell him a realistic number of what this property is going to sell for if he takes it down, right? Not only that, but he uses a hard money lender, and they require actual CMAs, right? Like this is the house that sold. This is another house that sold. This is what I believe the house is going to sell for. Drew uses his own cash, right? He's going to take down the money or private money. He doesn't have to do the whole CMA. So me running a CMA for Drew is going to bring no value to his business. What value can I bring to Drew's business? Are there any questions in regards to anything that any of these guys have said so far? Thoughts, ideas? Nothing? Anything online?
I have a question. When somebody approaches you guys and says, "I'm a cash buyer," what do you put them through the ringer through? What questions do you guys ask them? What do you ask them for? What else? Okay. 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 And you look them up and vet them and look at it, make sure. Okay. Any other questions or anything y'all ask? No. I'm saying like they want you to bring them properties and then they come to you with a proof of funds letter. Sure.
Questions? What are you
What
looking for?
my question really is like, what are we getting through the bullshit, right? Because a proof of funds letter can get downloaded online all day long, right? Everybody seen those, right? How many people, raise your hand, how many people call that letter and verify that they've lent to that person? Nobody, right? That's one of the most major things that's going to save you guys an ass load of time. Because there's everybody knows, right? People come in town, they do these little courses and they teach them how to go get these proof of funds letters and then get something on a contract. And you're excited maybe because you're a new agent, you're going to go help them do comps, but nothing verifies this person's actually going to buy the deal. So I say put their ass through the ringer, right? And don't waste your time. Ask them, verify, vet it, like do this kind of stuff to make sure that you're getting through the most important part, which is, are you going to get paid? Right? And that's what we care about too, because I'm not just sending my deal out to anybody. I want to make sure that this person that you're bringing to the table is legit.
Sean, why don't you send your deals out to everybody?
Dude, we get backdoored so much. It's ridiculous. We got people constantly going, Drew can vouch for this. We had to go back through our buyers list and literally clean it up because somehow, way, shape, or form, people got on it and they were going directly to our sellers. Fortunately enough, we're straight up and forward and tell everybody like, hey, we're not actually going to buy this. We're moving it to another investor or somebody's going to pay cash, or yeah, we're actually going to buy it. We tell them that up front because when somebody does approach them, we want them to be aware of it. We want them to know what's going on. We want to be straight up and tell them, right? Some of these guys aren't doing that. They're just like, oh, I'm the buyer. No, you're not. But that's the problem is like, that's the main reason we have a problem with not just sending our deals out to anybody. Oh, I'm an agent and I'm not, this isn't to you guys to be downed, but I'm an agent, I have a buyer. Okay, cool. I want you to go through the vetting process with me of that buyer, right? Because I want to vet that you actually have somebody versus just sending you a deal that we know we locked up under the right number and we have the right comps and it all makes sense. But then this guy is going to run you guys through the mud, or this buyer that says they're a buyer is going to drag you through the mud. That's our core reason for not just adding anybody to our buyers list. Our buyers list can be 23 people and I'm just fine with it.
We've run into that with agents bringing buyers that just weren't qualified.
Yeah.
And it is kind of annoying because it's like, that's what we lean on you guys to do, qualify them, make sure they're good to go, and then understand how we work. It's a contract assignment. This isn't a rain contract. So I think it's helping you guys to understand the logistics that you are likely working with our sales agreement, not a rain contract. It's of course okay to review it. Obviously the concern is getting paid, but we want to make sure you get paid. But it's just understanding the logistics of how it ends up working. More than likely, you're going to be required to close at our title company.
Definitely.
Because we said so. Like if your client is not okay with that, I will literally just tell you, go, who the hell cares? I don't care. Just get out of here.
I'll back up a little bit on that. Drew's a little tighter on his than I am. I'm okay with taking our side and closing it, meaning like we use Jenny Cologne to do most of our, anybody familiar with Jenny Cologne's office? Okay. So we use her to do the title work. Usually it starts the day we get under contract, we start title, right? So we want to be able to close that out and keep everything at one office if we can. If your buyer's so stuck on using theirs, that's fine. Let them close that side. We'll close our side, right? Don't let that be a hurdle. Please don't let that be a hurdle. But yeah, I get it. That's Drew's world.
Yeah.
That's Drew's world.
I,
And
I
plus,
look at it this way: we have right now under contract, we have 33 houses under contract to buy. You have one transaction with us. We're not going to go deal with another title company. You're going to deal with a place where we have 33 transactions. So just keep in mind, you only have one. We have 33. So just make our life easy, for the love of God, and your client gets a deal. It's not. Well, we moved to another title company because they couldn't handle our volume. But it's understanding the logistics so that it's not confusing with dealing with an investor and what you're doing, because this isn't an MLS transaction, and be comfortable with that. Sometimes I've had to talk to brokers, like, to get them to understand the transaction, to make sure that it is a legitimate transaction, and no, we just can't use a rain contract, and there isn't a ratification necessarily. Like, we can add an addendum, we can do it, we can make it work for you, but just realize that it's just not a rain agreement. There's nothing wrong with that. You can still get paid and it not be a rain agreement, I'm pretty sure. But just understand that in advance, and probably just vet some of that in advance so that you know what you're dealing with, so that you can, come across better with your buyer too, to realize, like, oh, this isn't scary. We've seen their agreement before. We're straight to go forward.
For the agents in the room, how many of you guys sign buyer brokers with your buyers or the individual that you're representing? How many of your brokerages they postpone, or they tell you don't go sit down with a buyer unless you sign that buyer broker? Okay. It's taught that the way that you get paid is through that buyer broker, right? And so in this type of situation where we're saying, hey, we're not really going to use the buyer broker because it's a wholesale deal, neither one of the parties are going to be represented in that transaction. How do you guys get paid? How would you get paid? Nobody? So you can get paid through a finder's fee, right? Connecting the individuals. You have a buyer, they have a deal, you're the middleman, you're collecting a finder's fee. The other way that you can do it, depending on the investor that has the deal, is you can put yourself in the chain of title. You assign me the contract, I assign it to my end buyer that's vetted, right? Some people choose to do that for purposes of trying to keep the two parties separated, right? It's like, oh, this is my buyer, I own this person. It's 2021. Nobody owns anybody. But that's a way of trying to keep the two separated. Like, I've taken this person to Chick-fil-A 5 times now. They owe me. They're going to be my person forever. So you can assign yourself in the chain of title and just pick up a check, right? You'll be a line item on the CD. Those are the two primary ways, right? I don't recommend you try to get paid outside of closing. Both of those methods, you're getting paid at closing, right? On the one-off chance that, hey, this deal, it doesn't work with me being in here, and they have to pay me outside of closing. It's buyer beware. You being the buyer. So we started down this side of the room, and we kind of let these individuals talk about their operations. Pico, you're doing transactions down here. Tell us a little about your operation and how you have it situated, how these folks in the room can work with you. You need the mic.
All right. So as you all know, I don't live in the area, so I'm working remotely inside the Hampton Roads area. My team is consisted of VAs. I have 4 virtual assistants who are constantly cold calling every single day within different lists that I have in Hampton Roads. This is probably the more conventional way things are done. Would you agree? Is mass scale cold calling?
Wait, we don't do any cold calling.
Okay. Well, we're doing a lot of cold calling. Being that my team is a little smaller, I'm directly involved in every deal. I won't come look at a property if the numbers don't make sense. So before I'm even on with the seller, I already know what the problem is. I know what the motivation is. I know what their asking price is, but my assistants, they've already gone through the negotiations, and we're at a price point that we know this deal is going to make sense. I can pretty much eyeball rehabs, being that I do fix and flip on my own. In this area, I know what the costs are for each line item. So, we usually estimate very high. My assistants, they're trained. They know how to estimate rehabs as well. So I get involved after everything makes sense. Sometimes the paperwork's already signed. Sometimes it's not. But when we know we have a deal, that's when I interface and really touch base with the sellers. So we're doing about 3 to 5 wholesaling transactions a month. Like I said, I didn't come into this to be Mr. Wholesaler. I came in this to be an investor on my own footing, fixing and flipping and building my own buy and hold portfolio. Wholesaling just kind of happens. Sometimes, right now we may have more than enough rehabs that I either have the capital or I have the resources to have them working on those rehabs. So we'll get another deal and hey, we'll sign it. Sometimes we get deals where they're buying hold deals. They don't work for me as a flipper. They don't work for my other investors as a flipper. But when your buyers list gets strong, I have 2 consistent buyers, anything buy and hold. I know the price points they want. I know the margins they want, the type of cash flow they're looking for, the areas they're looking for. When I get those, I shoot it straight to them. We're off the title as soon as we can get there. So yeah, my operation in this area, like I said, virtual assistants. I have a team of people here. I have Claudio here. I have real estate agent Miss Costin. She helps me a lot. We have tenant issues, trying to relocate tenants. There's always various headaches. There's always various issues that you're trying to resolve. So you got to have a great team when you're remotely, because like I said, I'm not here. My foot's not always on the ground. So I have Miss Costin. She's helped me a lot. Tarnell Sands back there. He helps me a lot. It could be some of the littlest things. Let's throw you got to go to this property, throw a lockbox up there. We're about to have some buyers come and they're going to check out this property at such and such time. It could be a situation we need an addendum signed. We have an elderly seller and they can't do everything via DocuSign. So my operation, Hampton Roads, is very remote. We use various systems. I have some systems that I've crafted out of my own. So by trade, I worked in IT. I was an engineer. So
it doesn't take you don't need to be an engineer to be in this business.
No, you don't. No, they have everything. They have all the tools. You can look online if you're interested in wholesaling. You can look online. You can get all the tools that you need to get your business going. Kind of creating the filters, creating the list that I wanted. Like I said, I don't spend 30, 40,000 a month. We're probably coming up on $10,000 a month, which scares me. But at the same time, I gotta get the most bang I can get for my buck. So I have to use some ingenuity. So just having the IT background, I kind of created systems and altered and made lists to find sellers that are motivated to me, what I think are motivated, and it's kind of worked for us. So we're hitting the marks that we want to hit. I'm not the $100,000 a month wholesaling operation. But we're doing well on the wholesaling side, and we're hitting our goals as far as building our personal investment portfolio with fixing, flipping, buying, and holding.
Real quick, so there are 2 things that Tico had touched on. So there's 2 things: wholesaling, right? These 3 individuals from the outside looking in. You look at their operations, or you talk to them, and they get labeled wholesalers. Wholesaling is it's a form of disposition. It's not a business in itself. Okay, that's one of the things that they do. In addition to that, what over there? Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. $30,000 on a light month in marketing.
7, 8.
Yeah, usually around 7, we hit 10 last month.
So roughly between the 3 of them, 50 grand in marketing. Yeah. How precious.
You gotta start somewhere, man.
as a real estate agent, I don't want to compete with that. Half of the room right now is made up of real estate agents. The other half, I'm assuming, are investors, right? I'm talking to the agents because we put this on specifically to get agents to kind of see the opportunity of working with investors and helping increase their deal flow, bringing deals this way, bringing some of these deals to the buyers that they have, and just kind of having this beautiful kumbaya loving relationship, right? Where, it's not agents versus investors to the death. It's agents and investors working collectively together to make money, and keep pushing this economy ahead. But that's kind of a quick rundown of what that looks like. It's not it's not our competition. I don't want it to be the competition. Uh, Zero ad spend, 50,000 ad spend. I'm gonna good.
As an agent, just for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
just curiosity, what makes you not want to spend that money on marketing?
What was? Give me the question one more time. As an agent,
What makes you not want to spend that money on marketing?
as an agent, why don't I want to spend $50,000 in marketing? Is the question. Because so no. So it's a lot to kind of get that operation going, and they weren't spending that money from day one. But I don't need to, right? It's not my business model. A lot of agents right now spend that money into Zillow, and it's when you start spending that kind of ad, you're building a machine, you're building a monster that is always going to need that. So the way that I've kind of set up my business, and a lot of the individuals on my team are setting up their business, is by providing value, so we don't have to spend that cash. Does that make sense?
And I would say that it's really understanding what you want your business to look like. Do you want a lifestyle business, or do you just want to crush and destroy everyone? If you're going to crush and destroy everyone, I mean, you're going to have to scale massively. There's a lot of expenses. I mean, the risk of falling apart is going to happen. And I look at it as like for agents, I mean, your average transaction value is different than what our average transaction value is. So I can afford to spend more. My
100%.
average wholesale, I make $15,000. My average rehab is 35,000. So I can afford to spend more. If an average agent transaction is less than that, then you actually can't afford to spend so much.
It is less than that.
Yeah. And so that's probably one of the reasons that scaling is a challenge. Plus, we already deal with such a large amount of people calling. I mean, I would hate to imagine what an agent gets from call perspective. Like it would be insane if you spent that much money. You'd have to have this giant team, and then just profits are diluted, and sometimes it's stay small and keep it all. Versus,
if I can chime in, I would say leverage your relationships at the same time. So the best marketing I get is just word of mouth, talking to people, getting out in the community. When we're doing rehabs, we're doing fix and flips, man, you wouldn't believe how many people in the neighborhoods will come to the houses and they're like, hey, man, you guys done amazing. This house was so ran down. Man, my grandmother just died and she lives in such and such area. Just talking to people finds more deals. It leads to more leads. And it's the same thing with real estate agents. I spend a lot of money on marketing. We're cold calling. My team, I need to grow my team to match kind of the leads that we have now. So, we're getting more leads that we're not closing on. Sometimes we're getting so many. I talk to Claudia all the time, like, man, I'm getting too many leads. I can't get offers out all the time or keep building a rapport with everyone. But at the same time, I get so many leads that we've talked to these sellers, we've hassled with them. We're trying to figure out their motivation. And sometimes it does not work for me as a flipper, doesn't work for me as a wholesaler, doesn't work for my investors who are buying whole people, but they just want to put it on the market. They just want to put it on the market. I can talk to Claudio sometimes, like, man, I got like 10 people I've talked to this week. They just want an agent. They want me to put them on with an agent, and they just want to put their property on the market. So if you have these contacts with wholesalers, someone who's already spent the marketing, but you're bringing value to them, you're building a rapport with them, I got no issue saying, hey, this deal doesn't work for me. It's not working for any of my resources, but hey, I think you can use this. I think you can help these people, and we can work out some type of conversation later. But
And I'll take those.
yeah, I mean,
I'll take those all day.
Yeah, working with wholesalers, it can benefit you as well. As you don't have to use a market, just talking and building relationships.
Sean being the other real estate agent on the panel, why would you not want to pay that kind of marketing?
I do think Claudio answered that well. Like, I don't need it. I have enough buyers and sellers right now that I don't need to market. But what I do need are deals. So that's kind of where we go with this wholesaler meetup. But if I could point out 2 like actionable steps, there's a lot of discussion today and a lot of numbers kind of thrown out. So kind of 2 actionable steps for agents that daily I think you could do to take this route is number 1. Whenever you get a new lead and they're looking for a house hack, something that needs a rehab or a burr or something like that, don't just say, well, here's my drip campaign and leave it at that. Anything less than $115 square foot, here you go, and wait for them to contact you. Get on these guys' lists and do a little work and match them up, and then boom, you're on to the next one instead of just the drip running out and then you lost a potential sale there. So that's one actionable step. And then the other one is when you find hopefully some sellers, just through word of mouth, and the property is too nasty to list, you don't want to list it, you don't want people walking through it, maybe people can't walk through it, think of these guys first and just say, hey, would you buy this? You don't have to know the numbers, just actually let me take a step back. Ask me. I'll help you run the numbers. Then, if it makes sense, then we'll send it over to Sean and Drew and not waste their time.
We can back that up to help you guys. Yeah. It's a lot easier to run those numbers than people think it is. It really is, right? Like a roof, kitchen, baths. You know what I mean? Like these are simple numbers. We do a property walkthrough where we take you through a property on a Saturday once a month, and we walk you through it for 2 hours and explain a breakdown on numbers. Right? You should walk out of that thing having your number very close. You were there, right? And we've done these for years now. And it started because we were working with agents, and I was like, why do you keep bringing me shit that you don't know the numbers to? They're like, well, I don't want to waste my time with the numbers. And you're like, it's really not that hard. Let me show you. And that's how it started, right? We do them once a month. 17th. Yeah, so I'm not going to sit there and pitch that, but I want you guys to know that
He will. He will shortly.
I just want you to know, like, we have that ability to teach you guys that to where it's easy, right? It's understanding those numbers. You can go through and calculate them pretty quick with the homeowner walking through it, so that you know what that number is, and like then you can back into it, knowing the formula, and you come to the table with like, here's what I think is going to happen, right? And I think that's really important to us. I know for me, and I hope for you guys, but like being able to know that's a deal or not.
Yeah. I mean, I would rather buy from agents. It makes my life way easier for me or a salesperson to deal with a professional salesperson, because you guys know the numbers, and then it just makes our life easier than talking to a bunch of sellers who are crazy and just weird situations. It's just easier to talk to an agent that says, hey, here's the number. And I'm like, I like it. I'll buy it. Do you want to represent me when I buy it? You want to list it on the back end? How do we make this work for everyone? Because we come in unrepresented. So the last one we bought, it was, I think she actually chose not to represent both sides on the buy, but just represented the sell side. And I'm like, sure, you can list my gorgeous house when it's done. It'll be an easy sale. But I mean, that's the least I can do, because otherwise I would have spent a crap ton of money in marketing to find a whole bunch of people to get this transaction, and you just brought it to me. We're done. I'd rather the relationship. We just aren't good with the relationship because I run the company and I suck at relationships.
Admitting is step one.
Yes.
I think that's the most important part, and I think Drew hit it on the head. If we can help you guys, that's what this meeting was built for, right? 100%. Is to come to the room full of agents and not have this stigma thing. It's all like wholesalers suck, or they're scammy, or bullshit, and it's like agents are this, that, and the other. It's like, no, we're trying to work with you guys and make this thing come together, because we do spend a lot of marketing. We do spend a lot of time in negotiating deals and follow up and just getting these things under contract, right? So yes, I agree. I would much rather have an agent come to me and say, hey, I think I have something based on the numbers you taught me and showed me. Like, I think this would be a deal. Like, is it? Cool, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we're looking to do. On top of the creative financing, knowing how to structure those deals. The subject twos are awesome. Mm-hmm. Owner finance is awesome. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, like, that pipeline is coming down. When all these things unload, the sub 2 stuff, everybody realizes that, right? Like, you're going to be able to step into these things as a bridge loan, bring us in, let us structure the deal, help pay you on it. We're going to not have to put as much money up. We're going to help the seller from going to foreclosure, right? Like, all that stuff is coming down the pike in order to work with you guys. And like, I hate to say this because it's like you're creating competition. People say this all the time, but you're not. You guys don't want to go do what we're doing, right? You just want to get paid on the deal. How many people just want to get paid and don't want to flip houses? Okay. So if that's you, that's fine. If you want to progress and be that person, fine, be that person too, right? Everybody's at a pecking order at a certain part in this game. That everybody agree to that? You know what I mean? So like everybody's gonna move up as you go. But if you learn it and then you bring it to the table and then you go and do it yourself, great. Everybody still should be making money.
Awesome. Hey, I'm gonna let because I think everybody went except Sean. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your organization. Because I think you were the only one that didn't talk. Your organization is our organization, but you also have your other stuff.
Yeah. Well, part of the think team, first of all, so reach out to us if you need any help with investor questions, specifically subject to. I've had a couple of transactions where the other agent didn't know what subject to is, just like I mentioned it and they freaked out. So like, don't freak
It's
out.
illegal.
Subject to is okay. It's actually very, very cool and a great thing to do. So if you have any questions about that, reach out to us. I can refer some books to you to read up on those things. But other than the agent thing, yep, Stillwater REI. That's my LLC. I'm the only member. My wife helped me out. We flip and for rental properties. So we started with single family, triplex, sixplex, and we're trying to buy a 12 this year. So if you got a 12, let me know. And then for flipping, yep, Sean and I are working on a deal together. And I'd say about half my flips come from wholesalers, the other half from us. So if you got anything you don't want to list, let me take a look. Maybe I'll buy. But that's it.
When Sean introduced himself earlier, he's kind of modest. He's like, "Oh, I was in the Navy. I got out." He's a Navy pilot, so kind of a big deal. And he's like, and my wife kind of helps out. Well, when he was on deployment, his wife was managing the projects while carrying around the baby, and like, they're a big deal.
What would you say you really do here?
So we're at the halfway point, and we talked about, hey, I want to show you guys how to work with investors. We kind of they gave you a little bit of what you can do to bring value to their business. You can see what they can do to bring value to your business. I want to touch on the creative financing, and both of these topics. Like, I didn't really. I asked these guys to join in after the fact. This was a self-serving thing because I was like, hey man, like I'm dealing with a lot of real estate agents that I'm trying to talk to on the investor space to work out a deal, and they're like, yeah, no, owner financing, no,
What?
this is a distressed property. Can we buy it at this amount? No, we're highest and best. No, like that's not happening. So there was a void there, right? And people were leaving money on the table. My buddy Jonathan back there and I were for many months. It's like 8 months. It's going back to this one deal in Ocean View that didn't make sense. I'm like, hey man, your numbers don't make sense, but I can put this thing together, creative financing. My people will buy at this dollar amount. You and I will still get paid, and I think that was the linchpin for the agent on the other side. They're like, "How do we get paid?" I'm like, "I'll show you." And I tried for 8 months to explain to him how to explain it to his seller, and he was like, "Yeah, no." I'm like, "Dude, get me on a Zoom, and I'll explain it to them, and I will walk this thing to the closing line, and we'll both get paid." Like, no. Guess what? It ain't sold yet. And it was simply because they didn't get it. He was scared he was going to get paid. He didn't know how we were going to get paid. And I was like, dude, my folks. I sent multiple emails. I sent multiple contracts.
Carrier pigeon.
Yeah, they just couldn't get it. I was like, listen, my guys
tablets.
are bringing $160,000 as down payment. Like that'll cover our commission. And he didn't understand it, so he couldn't explain it to his seller, so they could understand it. And the seller was only going to hold the terms for a little bit of time. I think it was like 24 months, 36 months, maybe. And we're going to be done. But they're still holding on to the property that they were losing money on. So, yeah, we're going to talk about creative financing. These guys are wizards in creative financing. These two for sure. I don't know about creative financing. You're like buy and sell and like
your beard is gray.
move
so
it.
I guess you're kind of wizardry.
Okay. I know Sean has Sean Rooks has done some creative financing, and I've done some, but I'm going to let that expert speak. So kick it off and talk about the three most popular forms of creative financing, and tell us about maybe one or two deals that you've put together that
Okay.
were just home runs.
So obviously there's owner financing, which I think most of you understand, just the seller carrying back a note for whatever period of time. Sub two, which is just taking over the existing financing. We play a little bit in the rent to own, so that's kind of this lease with an option to buy, I would say, is kind of the other creative aspect. From the owner financing, one of the biggest thing I want people to understand, especially for agents, is the difference between retail creative financing and investor creative financing. Like you can get an owner financing transaction and want 20% down, and sure, someone retail will do that. Am I going to put 20% down on owner financing? Hell no. I'll just go get a bank and I'll put 15% down with a bank and get a 3.5% interest rate loan. Why would I want to go with your seller financing? I financially can go get financing. There's no incentive for me to get involved. So like we bought an 8-unit apartment complex. I paid $400,000 owner financed for $2,400 a month until paid, and it rents for $800 per unit, $6,400 a month.
How much
No
interest?
down payment.
No money down, no interest.
I remember this one.
Principal only payments until paid off. And that seller was ecstatic.
But
Yeah.
you can't buy houses without a bank.
Yeah, I mean that's what people
Totally.
or the
Totally.
idea that you have to charge interest, and no, you don't. I mean, I just tell the seller, it's like you're not in an interest environment. Money changes hands. So how am I paying interest when no money changes hands? A seller does not lend me. If I bought an apartment $2 million, they don't lend me $2 million and I pay them interest. How am I supposed to pay you interest on money I never received? You know, I don't even know if that's legal. You know, that's my argument to people. It's like, that sounds sketchy to me. So we just do no interest because it's easy. The math's way easier. I don't have to do an amortization calculator and all that crap. But the seller, sometimes it gets the seller the price they want in cash flow. You know, we've done a lot of transactions where we can, I say a lot, it's probably like 15% of what we do is creative stuff. But sometimes it's just the way to make a transaction work for a seller. Like we had a gentleman who was wife passed away, needed to go to assisted living. And when I spoke to him, I was like, well, how short are you to afford your assisted living bill? He's like $700. I'm like, well, why don't I just buy the house for $210? I'm going to pay more than I would cash. My cash price was like $130. You know, slap me in the face with something terrible. But I can owner finance it and pay you $700 a month for the next 15 years, and then you have that money that you need for assisted living, and you don't have to worry about it. And I'll give you 20 grand down or whatever you want down, so that you feel comfortable and you can sell the house and feel like you still got a fair price. And you didn't get taken to the cleaners. And then ultimately, what were you going to do with that money anyway? Nothing. Most of the time, we weren't going to do anything. So we do a lot of that because it's the way to provide the solution to the seller, because it's not always about price. And I think that's sometimes what agents sometimes get stuck with. It's about the sales price, but ultimately, are you really actually helping that seller get out of that scenario? Like your scenario, is that really actually doing the best for that seller? Because that seller still has the property. So clearly, it's not what's best for the seller. But they get stuck on that price. I can pay that price if we get fancy with it.
Here's a very niche market for something like this. So VA buyer comes, purchases a house, retail home. They are here for 2 years, and then they PCS them somewhere else, right? Can that person sell that house today and not have to bring money to the table? Yeah, right. No. So on average, it's going to take them about 5 years of being in an area in order for them to just be able to break even, right? So they don't have to come out of pocket to close. So in that situation, creative financing deal would be where you could help that individual and not make it to where they have to take out a loan to pay off a loan so that he can go serve the country, right? Like those are the perfect opportunities. And I see those happening all day long. The alternative is that a real estate agent in that situation, like, oh, you can't sell it. You have to short sell it. Now we're going to ruin this person's credit. right? When we could have done something creative and made it happen. Um, so yeah,
We did one like that. We had a military person that had to move because of orders, and she couldn't sell her house because she had too much on it. She didn't have the money to put into it. So we used her loan as a bridge loan, taking it over sub to, brought our money into it, put a second deed in trust in place, and then turned around and sold the property in like 3 months. Paid off her note, paid us back, and made $24,000 on that deal. And that was for like a $42,000 investment. So if anybody wants to do the ROI on that one, right? Like that's the creativity side of things that I think works inside the military stuff that you guys hopefully will start seeing if it starts to happen. Like it's not gonna if when it starts happening, that you guys we can help you structure these deals.
so it's going mainstream, right? The creative financing, there's a big movement to get people into a house without using traditional financing right now. For the agents in the room, look up Home Partners of America. I, I'm not. There's no partnership there. They're not paying me to endorse them or anything like that. Home Partners of America is a company that basically, if you're moving into the area or you're establishing yourself as a 1099 employee, your credit challenged, right? Like you need a couple points in order to qualify for a mortgage. Home Partners of America, what they're doing is a rent to purchase program. There's no difference in the rent to purchase program than creative financing, right? Like it's the creative world that we're living in. The days of putting 3,000, 5,000, or excuse me, 3%, 5%, 25% down to purchase a home through a lender that's then going to run you through the ringer and require a DNA sample of you and a promise for your firstborn. Like those days are going by the wayside. These opportunities are going to be here more relevant, and we need to learn how to tap into them on both sides. So the rent to purchase program, you're going to pay a little bit more for purchasing that home, right? Because you're not purchasing it through your traditional means. You can take a creative financing sub to purchase and turn around and offer it on owner finance and get somebody into a home that would qualify for that home without using a bank.
You still do some of that?
Mhm.
So we do some of it too, where it's just I look at it as it's an opportunity for agents to use their less qualified buyers. That instead of trying to build that relationship years later when they fix their credit, as long as they have money, it's an opportunity for a rent to own. I mean, is the client going to get in the neighborhood they want to be in definitively? Maybe, maybe not. But it is an option to turn a buyer that would be a potential customer way later. And we have a little bit of rent to owns. I know you have some rent to owns. And it's not a scary transaction. I would argue it's actually safer and better than using a bank because
Totally.
if you choose not to buy it, you can walk away. If you choose not to, want that house that you bought with a bank, best of luck. You know?
Yeah. There's no 7-day guarantee return, 14 days.
Yeah. The other part about that too on the owner finance to talk to these people is you can actually help improve their credit. You can use the payment that you're making almost like a prepaid credit card, so it's reporting their credit, right? So their monthly payment to you could be like, hey, we opened up this credit card, you put $1,000 on this account, and every month it shows that you're paying it, so it improves their credit slowly, right? Anybody that's been in that credit repair stuff, like you should really look into that. It helps. If you're truly trying to help a person, like this helps, right? And that's the other side of these programs where they're not credit worthy or maybe they have some foreclosures on their credit or something like that to beat them up in the past, right? This is because you care and you're trying to help somebody truly. Yes, you're making money, but at the same time, you're doing something to help them.
Tico, you said that you're not in the creative financing game right now, working on it. Tell us, tell us a little about outside of the benefits that we've talked about. Are there any additional benefits that you see in being in that space?
Off the top of my head, the most important thing there is helping more people. You get hit with a multitude of different problems. I haven't been caught with a scenario like that where I needed to do creative financing. A few times we've had deals where we were going to do creative financing with vacant lots. Um, people weren't in a dire situation. Those sellers were just trying to get rid of this vacant lot. is the deal would have worked for us in that capacity and in that capacity only, and they weren't comfortable with it. I think one of those deals I had run through you in Virginia Beach somewhere, I believe. But I haven't run into that issue with the seller, and that's important. I deal with sellers who have credit issues, and we're pointing them in the right direction to companies that do credit repair. Uh, I've had a situation similar. I actually have a situation right now. I have a seller who wife is deceased. He wants to go into a senior living facility. You know, Sometimes you feel like you're railing them. Because I tell him, I know he's in a situation. This is the offer I can make to you. But I probably could have gave him a better situation or gave him another option.
Right. Just
Because
just an
all he
alternative.
wanted was around the same price. I think he actually wanted like 600 a month to go to the senior living facility. So, you open my eyes. I haven't done any creative financing deals. Like I said, the ones that I have done and indulged in had these conversations with the seller with the vacant lots. They didn't need it. They weren't in a dire situation, so it wasn't really helping them. So yeah, but
Just more tools in the tool belt.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's more options. Like I said, you get hit with a multitude of different seller situations, and that's another thing of value that you all can bring if you get privy or you educate yourself on creative financing. When I have those type of issues, when I have a deal that I know I'm on the cusp of making it work, and there's just a little extra sauce I got to add on it, I'll talk to Claudio. That was my first time. We was talking about doing a lease option on a vacant lot for a new build, and after that, I had other vacant lots, and I presented this deal the same way we had presented that one. So I'm learning and I'm growing, but at the same time, if you all are teaching yourself those methods, you bring value to a wholesaler, you bring value to an investor, or you become a subject matter expert. When they're calling your phone, it gives you more options to benefit. You know what I'm saying? So
And I would say if you came to us and said, look, I have a buyer with $10,000 down, they can't get a regular bank loan. Do you have anything? We would probably find something. Like, I mean, we're coin operated people. Like, put some money in, we'll go to work. So when you say, hey, I've got a buyer with money and this is a transaction, we probably have something that would match up that we could go find for you. If you really had a legit something on the hook that, we could go put it under contract, get an option to buy it, make sure your customers, wants it, and then turn it into a transaction that you would have probably never had, and then we would have never gone after. And that's definitely value that you bring, is to say, hey, look, I've got a buyer with money. He just can't get qualified yet. Do you have anything in, 23420, whatever?
Everybody has money nowadays because they invested in Dogecoin and they're rich. So
I was waiting for that to
seriously,
come up.
people are cash rich right now just because of how crazy things have been going with the stock market, right? So there's a lot of disposable income out there. But AMC. You just got to find the opportunities for these individuals, and we're talking about like retail stuff right now, where it's like, hey, I have a buyer, it doesn't qualify. Well, what about an investor? What about that investor that maybe is maxed out on the amount of personal loans they can get, and they want their 11th rental property? Creative financing, right? There are folks that just hate dealing with the banks, lenders. I'm one of them. Um, both as an agent,
Totally.
as an investor. They're not fun, and so creative financing just opens that up. You got a question, Chris?
Yeah, I was going to say creative financing is also a selling point for some sellers too. Because let's say your seller bought a house and then he was in the military, and 2 years later he had to transfer and he started renting it out. And he's been out of the house for 3 years. So now if he sells it and he makes $150,000, he's got to pay capital gains tax on $150,000 in 1 year, as opposed to doing an owner finance where he could earn, $10,000 a year and only pay taxes on $10,000 a year instead of $150,000 all in one lump sum. So there's also benefits you can sell to your sellers too. So if you have sellers who want to sell, but they're concerned about tax issues, or what they really want instead of just a big lump sum of cash is they want some monthly income, and they don't want to rent because they hate renters. This is an option for them as well. So there's all kinds of different ways to sell it to both sellers and buyers, and it's beneficial to both parties.
Thank you, sir. All right, questions from the room.
Let's go. Let's go, Jill.
Jill's got them all.
Let's go, Jill.
So I'm not doing any marketing because there's so many wholesalers, things that I have right now. So one of the things I was looking at was, is it possible that a wholesaler can get his fee from the other wholesaler that wants to assign it to, and this wholesaler can do an owner finance with the seller?
The question is, can
Joint venture?
a
That what you heard?
wholesaler A
Assigned to another wholesaler.
assigned to
that
wholesaler B?
wants to fix it for them.
Hmm.
And this wholesaler just give him his fee and have another contract to original seller to owner finance.
So she's asking if the wholesaler that has the property under contract, if the person that's buying that contract, if they can just pay them the fee and go direct to the seller and try to set up a creative financing deal.
I just paid on the
Right.
Or
hood.
if this wholesaler
Chris is dying over there. Chris is dying to answer you. Go for it.
Go ahead, Chris. What you got?
Yeah, so the wholesaler probably has it under contract specifically for the owner financing situation to begin with, and then in a wholesale contract, he just sells it to the end buyer, who's not actually a wholesaler; he's a flipper or an end buyer in general, and it's all written in there in the contract already. So that wholesaler has it under contract with the seller at a specific price with the terms of the owner finance in place, and then sell to me and or assigns, and then whoever is the end buyer, whether he's a flipper or just an end buyer, signs an assignment contract, and then at closing, both contracts get executed. The assignment.
Are you saying the original transaction was a cash purchase, and you've now you want to try to convert it to something different? So let's use Sean. Like, I'm buying his shitty house that he lives in for like 50 grand, and then
It's 30.
30.
30.
I'm being nice. I like you.
really, that's not the best scenario. So,
Words, Jill. Words.
old lady is selling her house to the first wholesaler.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Wholesaler goes, hey, I got a house.
Oh, we have a voiceover. I like it.
So,
Sesame Street
I'm
here.
like, do you think you can get her do owner finance? Well, how am I gonna get paid?
Okay, deal. Great. So
Oh my
that's
God,
perfect.
this is
That's a
fucking
perfect one.
comical.
And it's registered now.
Oh yeah.
It took us a while to get there, but I'm here. It's no different than asking an agent, right, that's negotiating a creative financing deal. Where do you get paid?
Yeah.
Right? Where in the transaction do you get paid? We answered it a little while ago. It happens on that down payment. So there's a down payment that's going to happen. Or the agent could go direct to the end buyer and say, here's my fee. I'm going to bring you this deal, and I'm going to get paid on this thing one way or another. On the transaction we were talking about over in Ocean View, right? It was going to be a creative financing deal. There was money that was going to be exchanged in that transaction. There's where that person's getting paid. Agent, wholesaler, they get paid out of that down payment that's being transferred from.
Are you trying to say you want to renegotiate my transaction to turn it into owner financing? Yeah, you can. But this is what I would caution though. Wow, that's a different problem. But here would be my challenge would be, so let's say I have a house at 50 grand under contract, all cash. I bring it to you. You have a buyer that's interested. There's a challenge that happens too is you have to have the intent to have purchased it. Otherwise, if you putting together another person in the transaction after the fact could be perceived as doing what agents do. And there's a challenge there because you never had the intent to buy it, and then you have put somebody together in the transaction.
Brokering.
You have to be very careful of having too many layers in the transaction, because especially the way things are now with wholesalers, they want to license in certain areas. But you could come to me and say, hey, look, I'm interested in that deal, but only if it's owner financing. And then I'd have to go back and renegotiate with the seller because you're taking my contract as it is. So I would have to renegotiate. And I've done that with people to say, hey, look, I can't do that deal at that. But if you can get it sub 2 at those numbers, I'd buy it all day long. If you can go back and renegotiate, I'll buy that contract from you. But I'm not interested in buying the contract you currently have unless you change this aspect of it. So yeah, you can get it changed. It's just be careful when there's too many parties involved if someone's not licensed in the transaction. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, we've done that where we just we give the seller a promissory note for when we're going to make the payment. Yeah, so that's not a problem.
Question is, do you always pitch a creative financing option when you're negotiating a deal?
I keep it as a backup. I want to go cash first, sub 2, and then owner finance at the last. Because owner finance is probably the highest purchase. You agree? Owner finance meaning that you're going to probably be able to pay more for it because they're taking back paper on it. Because let's just say, well, if you're doing owner finance, there is no mortgage on it. So I'd rather have owner finance if it was free and clear because I can pay more money for it. Perceivably, I can pay more money for it if the numbers play out. It's 3 tools: cash, sub 2, owner finance. Only if we don't get to the cash offer. And then it's like, oh, sub 2 work? There's no mortgage on it. Okay, well, how about owner finance? What if we do this?
So as an investor, you guys heard that, right? As an investor, he wants to use his cash to purchase the house because that's the way of him getting the property at the least possible price. But here's the great financing for the agent. He said, if I have to pay for this thing utilizing owner finance, it's going to be my highest offer. So as an agent representing somebody that's free and clear, putting that creative financing in here and say, hey, in markets that weren't what we're in right now, again, you will make more money offering this thing up by way of creative financing. In addition to that, Chris said earlier, you're gonna avoid having to pay any taxes on that property if it's a rental property. Primary residence, talk to your accountant, won't pay taxes on properties that you sell up to $500,000. I'm not a he's not a tax
So I would say with our offers, when I was the acquisition person, I'd always go owner financing with, I'd present multiple scenarios. I present it in a way based on my exit. I prefer to keep it with owner financing. And it anchors a lower price point from a sales point to say, look, I can give you 180, if you take money over time, or I can give you a 110 right now. Which would you prefer? So I like to give the alternative choice. My sales guy now pretty much just depends on the scenario and how it dictates it. But we use it just as another way to try to get that transaction is like an alternative choice. Because it's just like with listings. Like I look at it as if I can buy creatively, and you had like a listing in Princess Anne Plaza, you're asking 300 grand. I mean, I'd pay you 320 if the owner will take back a note for it and pay you over time. I can pay more than market if I can get the terms right. So it's
Time.
Yeah, it's the time.
I can touch on that too. Are you an investor or an agent? Okay, so whenever I'm offering on an investment property, like a 4 unit, for example, I'll give them the small, medium, large, and I just learned this just from bigger pockets. You just give them all options. So I got your cash offer, which is going to be the lowest, and I've got the conventional bank financing offer right in the middle, and then owner financing the highest. You just run the numbers on all 3 and make it work for you, and then you can let the seller decide what works best for them. If they're going to run into capital gains tax, for example, sweet, now you got a great deal. You didn't have to go through the bank. And then one other thing, just for creative financing, if you care, share the deal you and I did. Cool. So to kind of tie all these together, it's kind of complicated. I would recommend Brandon Turner's book on low and no money down. That'll just cover every single thing we've talked about today in extreme extreme detail with tons of examples. But one Claudio and I and a private money lender did recently. It was actually my first deal as an agent. So Claudio had locked this up on his LLC, which locked it up subject to. So he bought it. Care for share numbers? Cool. 136, and then just relisted. It was a whole tail deal. So instead of putting in a rehab, he just bought it for 136. I'm going to list it on the market because the market's hot right now. And then I told Claudio I was looking for a flip, so he sold it to me for 150, but under a lease option. So Claudio bought it subject to. So there's a loan for one. Yep, the loan was 136. Doesn't matter. He bought it subject to there, so he's still paying the mortgage at that time. I said, I'll buy it from you for 150 and I'll pay the mortgage and I'll rehab it. So we put 25 into it. And then because I was on a lease option, now I have the option to sell it. So I just flipped it that way. So now I sold it for 247, took the profits, paid off Claudio, who then paid off the subject to. So I think he made 15, I made 40, and the seller got paid off. So that's one way you can creatively structure it for investors, and then agents. That's how you can be involved in the process, because now you got two agents getting commission.
I love the question that the investor asked the other investor. I want to ask that question to the agents. He asked, you guys always offer that to your sellers. It's like you guys always offer the investor as an option to your client. And the reason I ask that is because most agents, they don't find themselves in the picture with the investor. And if I could translate any of the investor needs that they're speaking tonight, it's like they have built one of the most powerful machines, not just for themselves, but for you guys and your. So like, you think they have, in a automotive perspective, like both companies in Swedish money, you guys have the Cadillac that they have clients want to get there as comfortably as possible. And it's like, well, maybe they have a hot rod, but they've built it to be as powerful as possible. And you're thinking, oh, that hot rod's not comfortable, it's loud, what the heck, that's not cool for us. But really, they got hit, they have a Maybach, they have a fighter jet, they have whatever you need for your clients. So that's kind of what, being kind of a little bit in the both, that's kind of what I wanted to ask you guys. And then if not, then why is the investor not an option? Because they want to be sitting at the curb for you guys to say, tell your clients, hey, we can buy my car from this line, but I also have another vehicle that's also very powerful and could be comfortable with. That's my question to you guys.
Low and no money down.
Digital rep, $5.99. Right? I like it.
So I think that's a good question that he asked about that. Are you offering an investor as an alternative to your seller of the house that you know will do that? That's where I would suggest, like for like our company, is to tell a seller, hey, look, your property needs some work. We can go to the MLS and have a bunch of showings. We'll get a bunch of offers. Hopefully, all the offers, I'll have to vet them all, make sure they're legit. Or we can sell to this guy who has a solid product, will be over and done, one show, all done, no nothing. It's not going to be your highest price, but it's over and done. And that's kind of like the benefit that we would offer is the finality of it being over. And I would prefer that a seller honestly come back and see the finished product too, especially on an older house, because sometimes it's necessary for the seller to go through that process and realize it's not their home anymore, come back and see the end product. And of course, we're not, concerned if it's 8 feet of trash in the house. We bought one of those. It was all the way up to the ceiling fans. It was pretty sweet. I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. But I think it is a valid point. It's just like, are you offering that as an option to have the investor that's, one and done, or the highest and best? But I mean, to a seller, it's not always who's willing to pay the most. It's who's willing to actually move forward and close. Because I would imagine some agents have dealt with investors who haven't performed or get out on inspections.
I think it's just a level of comfort too. Like, are you comfortable with working with any of us up here? Get to know us, ask the questions, let us walk you through something, understand it. Maybe it falls apart because it didn't work because of the seller, right? But it took you through the learning process of it to where you can now go out and go find something else that does make sense. And it's not just spinning your wheels, right? And you're going with a company, multiple companies, hopefully up here that you know and vet and you know can work with. I feel like that's a big part, a hope that's what's coming across in this meeting today, is that there's this connection happening and it's not like investors are bad and agents or whatever, you know, like it's just this, I don't know why, but I agree. It's a
And,
stigma.
and my rehabs look really good in pictures that you could put everywhere. I've seen them. They are not.
Mm. I agree with that. I will say that I know I do, and I think Drew, you can speak to this. I know you're pretty harsh sometimes, but you somewhat have a heart. So it's really trying to help the seller, right? And I cannot sit here and say that you have to be this person that doesn't not care, but you have to really care that you're trying to help this person, or else that's not the deal. Won't happen. Like numbers matter, but we've had people take lower numbers on our offers because they were truly trying to help them, right? We're getting out of a bad situation. It could be multiple different situations: probate, um, divorce, inheritance of a property, I mean, medical. There's so many different things. You know, like just pay out. What was the one you and I talked about like a few weeks ago? Like pay off my car and pay off something else, and like you can have the house. And it was less than like 15 grand. We're like, what the?
Well, we've done
Sure.
some where we've negotiated the seller's debt on their behalf in order to buy the house. It's just whatever we can do to make it work. That's why I get frustrated talking to an agent when I say, hey, look, present this to the seller. And they're like, no. And I'm like, let me make sure I understand
Why?
this. Your job is to do what's best for them. So you can't make that opinion without speaking to them.
And you have a responsibility to present all offers.
Yeah. Yeah. Present this option. Let me talk to them to make sure that it's presented and you know what you're talking about because it's reasonable. But you have to understand it's like it's just that is understand that there's a way we can still get the transaction done. At the end of the day, you're going to get paid, but are we doing what's best for the seller or are we doing what's best for you?
And being educational to the agent to make you guys not make you, but hopefully have you understand how these things are structured so that we can work with each other. And we're not just sending, oh, I found this deal. Oh my God, I can't like getting that email destroys me. Like I got a deal. You're like, come on.
I got this duplex for 140. Yeah, no.
Hey, will the agents in the room raise their hand again?
Awesome.
Okay. If you have a fear of connecting your buyer or seller to an investor directly, raise your hand.
Liars.
You guys are a bunch of liars.
Yeah.
Sometimes it all depends. Sometimes you know that cash offer just result to the seller. So like you already know going into that situation that I presented it sometimes, but you know it's not.
I'm talking about physically connecting. Like Alan, meet Sean. Anybody have a fear of that? Of getting cut out of the deal?
So I have a fear
Come
of
on.
I have a fear of agents connecting me directly because I don't want that person to cut you out of the transaction. I don't know your relationship. So if you connect me with your buyer, like I don't know what the deal is here and I want to make sure that I honor, our arrangement or you introduced me to this person. I prefer them not to speak to me directly because I don't want you to call me up a couple months later and be like, that dude just bought like 6 houses from you and I didn't get paid. And I'm like, go. That's your guys' agreement, but
and
I'd rather support it.
And that's going to happen regardless of if you connect them or you don't connect them, right? Like the deal's gonna transpire, and you get disclosure. Like, oh, this person had a contract. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go direct with that individual. But there's a fear of making these connections in these rooms and saying, I'm gonna bring a deal to this person, or I'm not going to connect these two individuals because of what may transpire, and I get cut out of the loop. Said at the beginning of this thing. Much Chick-fil-A you buy that person, you don't own them, right? And our responsibility as agents and as investors and wholesalers is to make the connections, right? So Drew and Elaine are in the back. Chris, I'm going to give you a real life example of connecting people and just staying in the middle. So Chris comes to me with a deal and says, "Hey, I got this deal. I locked it up. I want to wholesale it, make a couple dollars." All right, cool. I'm like, these numbers make sense. I bet the deal before I just shoot it out somewhere. I bet the deal. I'm like, there's a nice little spread on this one. Tack a couple of dollars on there. I'm gonna bring it to my buyer. So I bring it to Drew and Elena. They look at it. They're like, "Hey, looks good. Numbers a little tight. Can we make something happen?" Go back to Chris. Can we make something happen? They buy the deal. They flip the deal. They make money on the deal. They knew each other before I connected them, right? He lent him money. He lent them money to do a deal before I connected them. And I made money on that transaction as an agent outside of the brokerage. It was a finder's fee. 2 weeks later or a week later, Chris hits me up. He's like, "Hey, I got another one under contract." I'm like, "Cool. You and Elena, you want another property?" He's like, "Yeah, we're looking. Let's go put eyes on it." That deal didn't work out because the house was a little weird. But literally, he knew that I assigned it to him a week ago. He came back to me and said, "Hey, I got another deal." Didn't know what the heck was going on in his brain. Not to just bring it to them directly, but there was a value there that was associated. And these guys like, Drew's like, "Who has the deal?" I'm like, "Chris." It's like, "I don't know why he didn't bring it to you." And for me, as an agent and playing in the wholesale space, the investor space, all these things, like, I don't care what anybody, like, I don't care that anybody knows what I'm making on a deal, especially folks that I've done multiple deals with. I'm like, "Hey, I got $5,000 in this thing. Let me know if it works. If it doesn't work for you, ship it somewhere else," right? Like, super.
On that same story too, the spread between my wholesale fee is because the deal is going to be like 15. We decided we needed to lower the price a little bit. I couldn't get the seller to come down at all. I actually cut 2,500 out of my end.
I could just go back to the real simple of like, hey, we'll put it out to you. We want our number. If your number fits on top of it, go give it to them. I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, it also goes back to saying like this is a really small pool that everybody's
Yeah.
playing in.
Everybody,
Really small. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll miss you too. It's like those guys had everybody's on everybody's email chain, right? Like, "Hey, here's the deal," so on and so forth. Drew doesn't send them out anymore.
We're spying.
I was looking through emails one day, and one of his guys, like, he wasn't happy, and he just sent that out. He's like, "Hey, tired of you guys trying to get our deals from behind our back. Screw you guys. We're done with you. For our close, tight knit individuals,
Yeah.
you'll be hearing from us." And I was like, "Dang it, who spoiled it for everybody?"
We've had it happen a lot.
But what was funny is Drew and Elena were bombing around on Facebook, right? Like, there's deals to be had on Facebook, and they send me an email. And they're like, "Hey, Wholesale has this one. Like, okay, wait, are you gonna buy it? Like, no. We want you to go reach out to them and do some research and negotiate and just be our middleman. Like, they understand it. There's no representation there, right? Wholesaler has the deal in the contract. But they said, figure out what the fee is, stack it on top, or try to get it from them, or whatever. Just make the deal happen. So we've explored a couple of different ways to set up creative financing deals today. We've explored a couple of different ways where you can bring value to the investor, and the investor can bring value to your organization, right? And now we have our kumbaya moment. We all hug, not in here because it's hot in here, but we start working together collectively, right? There's don't have it's an abundance mentality and what's the other one? Scarcity mentality. Leave this scarcity mentality right at the door. There's an abundance of deals to go around, just not enough houses. The abundance of deals to go around, and we can all make this thing happen. So I'm gonna kind of let each of them. Nobody's getting paid up here, right now. I'm gonna kind of let these guys kind of give you their goodbyes and plug any things that they might want to plug. Any last round fire questions that you can ask for them. They're going to be sticking around. Like I said, everybody needs to be out of here by 8:30. But yeah, Drew.
My biggest is, I mean, the biggest thing that we could use help with is, I mean, again, I mean, we have an expensive business. I mean, we only have to make like 110 a month to break even.
Only 100.
So that's super exciting.
It's only 100.
Yeah. So is, we're looking for opportunity. I mean, we're looking for rehabs. We may not pay the most in the market, and I'm comfortable saying that. We just want to put a better product out there. But we're looking for inventory just like everybody. We're looking for larger multifamily. So if you run into anything, we're going to be buying it ourselves. We're looking to acquire, we'd like to get to 1,000 units in the next 3 to 4 years. In order to do that, we're going to have to do a lot. So, and we're always looking to hire people too. I mean, we have 7 jobs out there right now that we're looking to hire talented people that want to be a part of what we're doing. So if that's, something that you want to try to do or know someone that wants to get into it, that's how we can all work together.
All right, so here's my pitch. Wholesalingoutofthebox.com.
Knew you were going to do it. So
It is because we focus on everything wholesale, from creative financing to teaching you how to market, to teaching you how to talk to sellers, to going to these property walkthroughs. We charge $47 to go to that meeting that we spend 2 hours to walk you through a property, right? And we extensively explain how to estimate repairs so that you guys know what these numbers are, okay? On the other side of that is, yes, we're in the wholesaling business and creative financing. And yes, I want to take on some more properties. But my goal this year was to really focus on the wholesaling because it is out there. Like, everybody understands it's out there, right? But how much shit you got to get through before you got to get to the people that know the business, doing the business, and actually performing. That's the other side of this, right? So check us out at that site. Come check us out one of those property walkthroughs. See, learn some of these rehab numbers to be able to, bring a deal to the table, know how to structure that, and then hopefully do some business with you. Yeah, so if you go to our wholesaling page, it's Virginia Wholesale Real Estate. It's on the Facebook group. It's a free group to join. Answer the 3 or 4 questions correctly. And then every Sunday, I do a live Zoom. And I've been doing this for like 3 years, 2 years. It's been a while. Every Sunday, I get on there. In the summertime, we're doing it from 7 to 8. It's 1 hour. And it's just open Q&A, right? And you could be new. You could be experienced. Doesn't matter what it is. But it's just getting in there for 1 hour to talk business and about wholesaling and real estate, right? And then in the wintertime, we take it back to 5 to 6. But yeah, we've been doing that for quite some time and have a lot of people that we've done business because of it. Yo. Oh, Opportunity. Opportunity is our group that we do where we get together at breweries once a month. So if you go to Opportunity, our Facebook page, it's just like it sounds, Opportunity, HOPP, for the hops and beer. Me and Alex Winfield is another agent that got together and started that like 3 or 4 years ago. And we literally started just by meeting at breweries and talking shop and having beers, and it grew into this thing. We now have a South Side chapter and we have a Peninsula chapter. So we're back in person again, so we're starting those up. So tomorrow night, will be over at Bold Mariner. I think is that the name of it, Bold Mariner.
Ocean.
Not Ocean View. Is it Ocean View? It's on the peninsula, so
Oh,
it's a different one. But go to that page and you'll see it. So we'll be meeting over there just to network and talk with people. So if you're looking to reach a hold of me, 757-241-8799. I think.
All of the speakers' contact information is on board, so snap it up and I'll get your V card to them and so on and so forth. Good.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So I guess my plug would be I'm willing to work with anybody who wants to help the community. You know, of course, I want to make money. We all want to make money, but you know, I've taken pride in resolving solutions. You know, resolving problems, bringing solutions to issues within the community because we run into it at abundance. You know, I've always think about scaling my business, scaling my resources. I think I need to be, you know, me and Claudia, we talk extensively about so many things about opening my business up. And he was like, Tico, how can I help you more? I'm like, man, I got problems within my own organization that we're trying to resolve so we can grow and scale more and reach more people. But at the level we're at, we're able to deep dive into a lot of problems. So I like working with people who will take a deep dive. You know, I'm not the I'm not the $100,000 a month operation by any means. If that happened, that's cool. But at the same time, you know, I'm deep in the community. Um, I'm talking to my sellers still after we do a transaction, and I like working with people who take that approach. I like working with people who, you know, after we leave the closing table, after you get your assignment check, the relationship isn't done, the work isn't done just yet. So, I keep it kind of tight knit just because I extend myself kind of broad within my organization. I'm involved with every transaction because I don't have the hugest organization, but at the same time, when I grow and build a rapport with other people, whether you're a contractor or a real estate agent, if you kind of match kind of the company culture that we have and what we're trying to do, I would love to keep growing and keep working with you. And using your resources. Like I said, I'm not here all the time. And we got big plans, not just trying to get more deals. I'm looking for more deals. I'm doing more rehabs. We're trying to do more transactions, just wholesaling wise. But we're trying to resolve problems and we're trying to bring solutions, not only to just the individuals, but to the community too. So, like I say, you guys can help me by leveraging you all and leveraging your resources, leveraging you being here. We're not just trying to move more product and move more inventory, but we're trying to do some things in the community as well. So, that's my plug. But yeah, anybody wants to talk to me, that's my very, very, very personal number right there. Oh, but yeah. So
I asked everybody.
I probably was in a rush.
I don't really have much of a plug. If you want to see what we're doing, HamptonRoadsInvest.com is our website. We pretty much post everything on there and social media, flipping. The only thing we can really use, as everybody can use, is more private money. So if anybody wants to earn interest on their money, let me know. I'd put it to work. That's for sure.
He pays Bitcoin returns.
Yeah, Bitcoin and
What?
Dodge.
We
Other than that, though, the only thing I can kind of leave you with is pros and cons of working with investors. That's why most of the agents are here, right? Like, why would I want to work with investors? So, pros. Well, let's start with cons. Usually, not very high purchase prices. If they're a flipper or if they're so you're gonna have to do a lot more volume to get your standard retail buyer in Virginia Beach. Another con, you're gonna be putting in a lot of offers. Most of you are probably very experienced at that and can do it very fast. Now, the good thing, the pros are, once you get them in your system, it's bang, bang, bang. Cash offers are super easy to put in. And then the other pros are, is it going to be volume? If you get hooked up with an investor flipper, you're going to be doing, 6 or 8 deals a year with this person. That's going to get you way more commission than one residential buyer. The other pros are, you're going to put in these offers, which maybe take you 15, 30 minutes. Whereas with the retail buyer, you're going to go show them 35 houses, put in 10 offers, and get one accepted, over 3 or 4 months. That's a lot of time invested. Whereas with an investor, you're putting in 15 minutes a day, maybe, at the close. So,
Show of hands by agents. Keep them up real quick. If you don't work on the weekend, keep your hands up.
Don't work on the weekend.
He doesn't work on the weekends at all.
Yeah.
Like, No, not happening. Did his time in the military, went through that prison sentence, and he's like, "Hey, I'm back, and I'm running this thing the way I want to run it. Retail buyers want to show houses on the weekend. I know I was out showing houses on the weekend thanks to Erica Osborne on Saturday. Didn't work on the weekends. So if you want to, as an agent, you want to design your life to do the things that you want to do, work with investors.
I say that's true, even if you're an investor. Design your life first, and then work your job. Don't design your job and then work your life. So I also don't work after 4 p.m. So I work 8 to 4, and I do not. I do. That's a little lie. I work an hour after dinner after I get the kids to bed. But, I think every individual needs to be balanced. And if you aren't working out every day, if you aren't spending an adequate amount of time with your family, you're probably doing it wrong. So balance your life, and you'll succeed in all of them. You'll grow this way instead of just this way.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Round of applause for these guys.
What's that? Clap that.
Thanks for coming out tonight, guys. Thank you for hanging out in this swampy ass room with us. Claudio Valdivia with the Think Real Estate team, Sean Rooks, Think Real Estate team, Chris Kaiser, Think Real Estate team, Andrea Barrett, Think Real Estate team. Appreciate you guys coming out. Mingle. You have till 8:30, 29 minutes to go.